Hello, Monsters Abound here, and welcome to City of Gangsters. Thought we'd take a quick look at this turn-based logistics strategy game set in Prohibition, America. Now, before we get any further... America, just talking to you here. Are you alright, buddy? What was all this about, eh? Why ban alcohol? What were you thinking? No, I think you could be a cracking little country, right, if you just got your shit together. I'm going to leave it there. But, you know, just have a think about what happens, right? And don't do it again. Anyway, so I've decided to play as Mario. You can name your starting character. I am Mario, and then you can give them like little nicknames when they level up a bit, and I've called him the Plumber. So that's fun. Actually, creating your character is a little bit harder than you'd think, because you can't actually pick the portrait. The portrait is randomly assigned, so you just have to keep randomizing your character until you get the portrait that you want. And then you can put the name in, and you can pick the nationality. There's a whole bunch of them there. And also, you can then pick the city. If you pick the city, after you've set your character up, it will then re-randomize your character. Yes, it's a bit weird. There's a few niggles like that in the game. The other one I'm going to jump into straight away. So when you create your main character, you can, of course, name them, give them nationality. They also have traits. And you might think, well, why have you made Mario irreverent and myopic? I didn't. Traits are randomly assigned to your starting character at game start. You have no ability to change them. You just get lumped with them, which is a bit weird. But overall, I really like this game. So the map is sort of split up into corners. The map is randomly generated at the start of each game. And you have these, so each corner has various different shops available on it. So, for example, where Mario is here, we have Margaret's Corner. We also have Yulia's, someone's corner. Down here, so you can see that we can drive on down here. We have the yellow counter. We've got the River Lumber Company, and Yu's Barbershop. Each of these shops will sell different things and also potentially buy different things as well. So you have to keep that in mind. Each shop is run by a certain person. These people will have traits associated with them. Every character in the game has traits. And some of them may make them more likely to like you or more likely to not like you. How much they like you is dependent on various things. But at certain points, they will give you favours. Favours are how you sort of spread your influence across the city. So, for example, Beverly here, she quite likes us because we've helped them out. They also collect contributions on our behalf because they actually run as one of our fronts. And they owe us 2 favours. So what we could say here is we could say, we've got a good relation. You said that you're willing to help me out. Have you can? Let's talk about that. So now we can spend these favours in doing various different things. For example, we could ask them about interesting events in the neighbourhood. We could ask them to support us with a nice words with some people they know. We could hire someone. We could potentially get into... introduced to some of these troublemakers. These orange characters down here are AI controlled, sort of. They don't expand. They just kind of sit there, but they act like an AI, but one that doesn't expand. Basically, that's how they are. But you can potentially get them on side and get them to do things for you if they like you. You could also ask about maybe buying a new building. So a building is a building that you control, and you can potentially build things in that. So, for example, over here, we've got the 8th American Deli. We actually started out with this. And in here, we have a backroom business, which is improved homebrew. So we are creating some homebrew to sell. That's how we're making some money there. Where are you? There you are. So we could also ask them about weapons. Can they sell us any weapons? Can they give us access to weapons, that kind of thing? You can also fight enemies on the street corner. It's all done sort of like an auto-resolve type thing, but it's fine. It works anyway. But the main way you're going to expand is by asking about people they know. So if we click on the little button, this one, little speechy button, that'll show us everyone that they know. So everyone that they've had a relation with. So you can see all of their sort of like acquaintances here. They might have family, like a mother, for example. Mother works down there. So we could potentially say, you know what? I really want to get to know your good old mum. Yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to get to know your mum. So I could say, I want a little bit of support. I want to know your mum, who I think is down here somewhere. Just No, that's a police officer. Yeah, I want... Yeah. So, I want you to put in a good word with me with Marian Korvalenko. So we can do that, and now if we head down here, we'll find that Marian Korvalenko actually likes us a little bit because her daughter has said what a good guy I am. Now, that can then let you potentially have a favour with Marian. You could then potentially set up a front, and that's how you expand your territory. So you set up a front, so we've got one front set up here. They need to like you need to have a favour with them. You can then set them up as a front. They will then slowly expand in the surrounding corners near to them, and then you can extort those businesses. So for example, you can see that these two businesses have a little envelope there. It's because we're extorting them. Obviously they're not super happy about that, but they kind of got over it. So I've done that quite a while ago, and we're now making a lot of money. We can say, how is our front doing? And they say, good, I believe you have something for me, and they'll give us $10 of money that they've sort of like accumulated over time. Not a huge amount, but then I literally just went and picked it up anyway, so there was only a little bit accumulated there. So basically then, the point of the game is to expand your empire. Now, Ice King Mario has expanded his empire quite well. We've got a little front down here, which is expanding. So that's very exciting. We've got a front over here that's expanding a little bit, a front over here that's expanding a little bit. So we're sort of branching out. And what we're trying to do is produce new lines of products of alcohol. So we've got a couple of buildings here that we've turned into production lines for our beer. So over here we've got a backroom business, improved homebrew business operation, so we've seen this before, and so this is turning some malt syrup and some stoneware crocks into 178 crocks of homemade beer. That's every 4 turns, every 28 days, and we're supplying that with the corner over here, which is a malt process, which is taking barley, which is then turning it into malt syrup. Now, it's actually got quite a lot of malt syrup in there. We're not actually using very much. What I tend to do is I just send old Mario down here because the river Fireproof Storage Company actually sells barley, so I buy barley off them, dump it into the malt processor. They make the malt syrup. We then dump it into the 8th American Deli. That produces backroom beer, and then we have Luigi, my brother. Where is he? Luigi, where are you? If he's gone to hoover up some more fucking ghosts, I will. Oh, there is. Right, so Luigi here he's my delivery boy, and it was pure luck that he had that portrait. He looks like Mario. Couldn't have picked that any better. He was the first guy I hired to do some delivery driving, and he's pretty good at it, actually. And so we actually have Luigi doing a little delivery run. So we can actually see if we click on it's kind. If you've played something like Transport Tycoon, this will be fairly similar. If you've done any programming, again, this will be like very basic programming. Effectively, you're telling. So I ensure cash on hand, so he drives over to the 8th American Deli, make sure he has 150. He goes and buys some stoneware crocks and drops them off. That's when I had to go and take the crocks out because he was dumping too many in there. We then have some homemade beer, so he picks up some homemade beer. He then sells that. That's all pretty good. And then he drops off all available cash back at the 8th American Deli. And in fact, we probably can see that we've got about $731 there, which is not too bad. I took a load out and bought a new building fairly recently. We do actually make quite a lot of money from that, which is quite nice. So Luigi's doing that, and he's selling to local businesses. So he's taking the beer to local businesses who will buy it, selling it to them, and that will improve their relationship with us and help us expand our empire. Now, we're also using the homebrew beer for other things as well. So down here, we've got a speakeasy. So this is turning backroom beer into just money, so we're not having to sell it. It's actually making quite a lot of money. It's looking pretty good there. It's actually run by one of our crew, by Nicholas Majewski down there. So he's got production manager level 1 and speakeasy manager level 1. So your characters do level up, and you can pick skills for them. In fact, if we have a look at our backroom beer here, we can see Marion Peach Dudley is level 5 in back. So she's actually making about 66 more, I think. Yeah, plus 66 from brewing homemade beer. So basically, Marion makes 66 more homemade, but she manages to water that shit down. Nobody's business. Looking pretty good. Then down here, we have, this is pretty exciting, some backroom beer. Now, the home brewed beer is like a level 1 beer. Now, the backroom beer is level 2. There's also there's a whole load of different types of alcohol you can make, like cider, rum, whiskey, loads of stuff. And it all comes in sort of tiers. They're all harder or easier to make, depending on sort of like how much value they're worth. So we're making backroom beer here. So you can see here I've actually got Alice Daisy Moss, who is our backroom beer delivery driver. She helps out Luigi delivering the backroom beer. And she's actually picked some up. She's got almost $500 in cash on her. And she'll dump that across, and then she'll take that backroom beer for delivery. But the backroom beer actually uses some of our homemade beer and some small bottles and some hops. So Daisy has to go and basically buy the small bottles. She then comes back and delivers the homebrew beer. We also have some hops that is produced over here, because some of our businesses actually produce things. So this one's actually producing stoneware crocks and hops every 14 days or 2 turns, which is quite useful. So that's keeping us in hops, which is nice. And we're selling that. Now, that's all pretty good. As I say, there's loads of different types of alcohol you can produce. So, for example, we could go and look at, if we have a look at this building over here, we can see we could make, for example, fruit wine, brick wine. We've got cider, and you can learn new skills as well. You can learn skills through doing missions. So some of these buildings will offer missions. Can we see one? So this little icon here, Wooden Street, says they want to talk to you. So they may have a mission for us, and they may want to teach us something. So they may want to, for example, have some of our beer. We can bring that to them, complete that mission. They will give us some money, maybe some resources. Maybe they'll teach us how to do something, all that kind of stuff. It'll also increase their rep with us. So again, a good way of increasing your relationship with various people is doing missions for them. And that can be quite lucrative, in fact, which is quite nice. You can also hire people. So there's an icon there for hiring people. And also this little purple hat is if they have a skill, we could potentially ask them to teach us that. In fact, you can see what people want to teach you about. So we have a look at, no, not screw skills. It is learnable skills. So you can see we could learn, for example, corner speakeasies or truck repair bays. Some of them are duplicates. Bootleg vodka, for example. We could learn how to do that. Resources are obviously quite important across the city, and you can actually see from a glance who particularly wants, for example, who wants to buy homemade beer. So you can see I'm actually quite lucky here, and there's a lot of people nearby that want to buy our homemade beer. In fact, so many that we can't actually sell to all of them. But we also need to about resources. So if we didn't have the ability to make malt syrup, we could actually buy it from some of these businesses over here. There's a fair few around that we could do that with. But if we wanted to make like wine, for example, we'd need grape concentrate. There's only a couple of places that actually sell grape concentrate, but potentially we could go and buy that from them. Maybe we could learn how to press the grapes ourselves, but there's only currently one place that sells grapes. Oh no, 2 places. I stand corrected. 2 places that sell grapes there. So you kind of have to check what resources are nearby and then make a decision about what you're going to sort of like expand into. I think I have decided that apple juice was fair. Yeah, there's a few apple juices around, so I was potentially thinking about maybe going into making ciders, because again, there's a few places that will potentially buy some cider around there, so we're kind of pushing in that direction. That's why I sort of like expanded down here, because I was like, well, if I want to create cider, I need someone to sell it, so I wanted to sort of like ensure my hold on certain areas that want to buy it, so I could then sell it to them. So far, so good. I mean, generally, you know, it all kind of makes sense, doesn't it? It all kind of makes sense. Now, this game is generally fairly enjoyable, but it does have some downsides. The first is that the AI is not very bright. It's not. There's no difficulty level really. It just kind of does its own thing. It tends to, if you attack it, it tends to blob all of its characters on you. That's about the only sort of thing it'll do. It just kind of randomly expands. It doesn't seem to really think about anything. And the other slight issue is that the game's actually fairly easy. So I've really got what I would say is one production line, making backroom beer and making some homebrew on the side. And I'm making more money than I really know what to do with. I mean, I'm buying buildings, despite the fact that I don't really have anything to put in them yet. And they cost like 9 grand. So I kind of have a lot of money. I could hire a lot of people right now. I could hire another 5 people, and I could literally just send them to, you know, I could arm them all with Tommy guns, and I could go and blow away the competition fairly easily. It wouldn't be that tricky. So there is that. The deliveries as well aren't as maybe finely tuned as you'd want them. So Luigi keeps buying Crocs, and because he keeps buying Crocs, I sometimes have to go and clear them out because he puts too many in there, and then it fills up the storage and there's no room to make the beer, and then he just keeps buying Crocs. that's a bit of an issue. I have to occasionally pop along with my delivery van and just like unload the crocs somewhere else and sell them or destroy them or something. So that's a bit of an issue. The other thing is there's a couple of like quality of life things that it's just odd that they've haven't implemented them. So, for example, we have our building here. We're making a home. Now, I've got a reason that I wouldn't want this building. But let's say, for argument's sake, that I didn't need it anymore and I wanted to get rid of it. How would I do that, do you think? Well, there is no way, because there's literally no way to knock down a building that you can't... You can upgrade it to a backroom beer operation, or I could downgrade it. It says upgrade, but in fact what it would be a downgrade, because this is the original version of that building, and I've actually upgraded it to the next version. So I could downgrade it, or I could upgrade it to something different, but I can't, say, turn it into creating cider. Bit of an issue. The other thing is that the only way to get rid of one of your crew is to unarm them and pick a fight with someone and hope that they get killed, because there's no way to actually fire someone. If I wanted to fire Luigi, for example, because he's going to be going around on the side hoovering up ghosts, I can't do it. There's literally no way to get rid of him apart from just sending him to go and try and punch someone with a Tommy gun. Weird. Just odds. Just like an odd little... Like, the developers seem quite reactive, and I'm kind of hopeful that they're sort of like, quickly patching the game, adding things, that kind of thing. That's really positive. But there's a few things I'm just like, did they never think, how do I get rid of this person? Or what happens if I want to knock down a building? For example, what if I go with homebrew beer, but then, someone comes in and takes over the place I was selling them to? Then I'm kind of stuck. I'd have to buy another building. Basically, that game would be over then at that point, unless I could maybe take back that area. But, I would have no other option. I couldn't knock down the building and change it to something else. I'd be stuck. So a bit weird. As I said, the character creation again is a bit strange in that you're locked into traits and you can't really kind of like pick your portrait. Again, there's just a few little oddities about this game that I hope are fixed. Overall, I've really enjoyed my time with City of Gangsters. The fact the AI is not that bright isn't necessarily a huge problem, but it would be better if they were smarter. Also, the map can sometimes be a little bit finicky. You sometimes end up with, for example, bits of the city you can't get to them because the bridges haven't been created in the map creation at the game start, which is a bit of an issue. But overall, a fairly good game. It's about 26 quid, or whatever that is in your heathen money, on Steam. And if you like logistics games, then I think this could be worth a look, potentially. Although, there might be better ones out there. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.